basic console input. We just saw how to output to the console by using the print command or function. Now we want to find out how to input, how to ask a question of the user that's going to require them to type in some text or a number or something that we will then process. The first thing we'll do is to input a string. Here we're going to use the input function, and we will say input, and then in parentheses we'll put what's called the prompt. It's a string that will be displayed to the user, and they will then have an opportunity to enter a result. The result they enter, or the input that they provide, will then be returned by the input function, and in this case we will assign it to a variable which we could call anything. Here we're going to call that variable name because we're having them enter their name. Then we're going to go ahead and print. We're going to print a string, your name is, with a comma, and then the name that they just entered. Let's see this work. So we're running our code, and when we are on line 1, name equals input, enter your name, and here we go. This dialog box popped up, and there's enter your name, which is the prompt that we provided. Now, this is the user typing in a name. Say, my name, David. When I click OK, input will return David. Python will set the variable name equal to that, in this case David, and then we'll proceed to line 2 and say, should print out your name is David. And there's your name is David. Now we can run this in Sublime using standard Python, and when I run it you'll see it's similar but different. Here there's no pop-up. That dialog box was a Python feature. And by the way, you should make sure that you allow pop-ups. You should probably allow them for the entire course website. Otherwise, you can't do input. Here, we're not in a browser. And when it says enter your name, I can enter it directly in the console. And I will say David again. And I say enter your name is David. Now, what if I tried to enter a number? So here we'll say enter a number, and we'll say 1/2 of the number I entered equals 1/2. Now the comment says it's an error, but let's watch the error in progress. Here we go. So enter a number, and I'll enter in 42. 1/2 of 42 should be 21, but 1/2 of 42 instead is error. It crashed. And it crashed saying unsupported operand types for division, stir and int. What does that mean? Well, when we entered in 42, Python treated it as a string. This would be clearer if I run this program again, perhaps, and enter in David. And you might say, David's not a number, and I would agree. It's not. It's a string. Input always returns a string. And when you try to divide a string like David by 2, Python crashes and it says strings cannot be divided by integers. That's what this cryptic message is saying. For division, you can't divide a string by an integer. Now you'll say, yes, but we didn't enter David. We entered 42, and Python should know that that's an integer and not a string. That's not how it works. No matter what you enter, Python is going to treat it as a string. So we did not enter 42, the number. When we run and we do 42 here, we enter in the string composed of the characters 4 and 2. So that is not the same as a number, unfortunately. We need a way to convert the input, that is a string, into a number. And for that, we use the int function. So we get the input, and whatever we get, we submit that to the int function, and that will convert the input into an integer. So we go ahead and run this, enter number 42, and sure enough, 1/2 of 42 is 21. And if you want to see this in individual steps, we could do the following. Let's go ahead here, and we'll say their response is this, print you responded, comma response. And now X, breaking this out, we can take their response and turn it into an int. And now when I run, see, you responded 42, but that's the string 42. This is the line that converted that string into the integer 42, which then we could go ahead and divide by 2 if we wanted to.